Hi, just testing this. First time trying to do this. Let's just see if I'm getting what kind of results I'm getting. Okay, I can see. Hi, Zoo Scott, YouTube. Hiya, Rune Torsion. Hi, Spirits of Somerset Paranormal. Hello, Level-Headed Sheeple. Can you hear me? I'm afraid I got slow mode on for the chat. It's just a 10-second delay if you want to. A 10 or 20, I think. Is this a dating stream? You have to be flat. Oh, hi, Nathan. Okay, Sleeping Warrior. All right, okay. Today's D-Day. Will all be sacked if United lose? Okay. What's okay? Someone just let me know. Okay, you give me the thumbs up. So looks like we're getting it on here. So yeah, if you want to join the discussion, just email me. The email is in the description. nick@stretchoutmedia.com, and I will send you a link. Can't hear you. Ah. Okay, just a second. Hello, testing. Okay, it's showing up on my OBS. Okay, what count? Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. You can. Okay, thank you, Nathan. All right, sorry. Yeah, it's just I'm trying to switch between things here. I'm just going to open up my. Okay, Nathan Oakley says, what percent of people in your area are unaware of the globe? Are unaware of the globe? Actually, there's quite a few so-called flat earthers in Phuket. I've yet to meet them all, but there are a few. And I think, of course, these are the kind of people that are obviously, they come out of their own Western culture maybe, and they've come into a completely different culture and have learned to live in that culture. So obviously, you do get open-minded people here. You get a lot of closed-minded people here as well. The average retiree or something that doesn't make any real attempt to integrate into society, much like the kind of people you might get in retiring to Spain or whatever. You've got those type as well. So anyway, what I got to do is just check my email to see if okay, so I got no one coming in at the moment. So I basically opened up a Google Meet with a link. I'm not going to stick that in the chat or anything. I'm just going to, if someone wants to join, they can send me an email and I'll send them the link. My camera doesn't look like it's doing too well at the moment. Sleeping Warrior says, Nick, only use slow mode if trolls are here. Lots to catch up on. Did you catch Rachi and FTE on her? But I saw, because I think Dell did something about it last night. So I saw, yeah, and just the usual ugly rhetoric from like the flat Earth. Couldn't just twisting words and stuff, and calling gravity a force on its own, and just shouting and cutting her off. So yeah, that's the usual kind of tactics we expect to see from those people. So I don't bother following those kinds of things. So yeah, and obviously anyone is welcome to join. So just send me an email to nick@stretchoutmedia.com. And we'll try and you'll be a guinea pig. You'll be my test case. All right, ingested red Zoo Scott. Okay, yeah, cool. Well, we've been live for 5 minutes, and so far we've got no one coming in. I really, because obviously a lot of the time you get people come along, they bah bah bah. What about this? What about that? And of course they're not usually interested in listening to your answers. And it's time consuming to write it down. I'm quite happy to interact with people on it's a lot easier, I find. You can say things in the way that you mean them, rather than them being lost in translation when you have a chat. So you do it on the chat. So I'll just keep an eye on it. Anyway, how you all doing? Anyone from Australia there who can fill us in on what's it like on the ground? Good to see our people in Melbourne doing. First of all, yeah, I must obviously, I've not really had a chance to say my condolences to Rob Skeever's family, and that is obviously a loss that was that I heard about early on. In fact, the way I heard about it was from a Globe believer coming along and basically using his death as a way to kind of poke at the so-called anti-government flat earthers and say, see, that's what happens when you don't trust the government. And oh dear, it's just like, wow, that's just the typical kind of So that's how I found out about Rob Skeever's death, and then went on. Alpha Beta, what is under the flat Earth? No idea whatsoever. What's at the bottom of the ocean? Does anyone know? I mean, we've all seen the footage of extra super saline water at the bottom of the ocean. So maybe this Earth is floating on very dense saline water. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but that's just speculation. No idea whatsoever. And I don't know how large it is. Yeah. Okay, Ingested Red, you're just listening from now. Okay. So, Boomy, hi Al. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just checking my email just to see if anyone's got the balls, the real balls to call in. Just email me at Nick at stretchoutmedia.com. Okay. And we can try to keep it civilized, and a lot of the time, especially with these globe Earth proponents or those who want to argue with people like myself, you often come along with presuppositions, assumptions about what I believe or what so-called flat earthers believe, and you just start hammering away with your so-called proofs, which are usually just one thing, so there seems to be this inability to communicate on a proper human level a lot of the time, as well as this inability to think of more than one or two things at once. Yeah. So Sleeping Warrior says, Nick, can you give us your view on LIGO? What do you know about it? It's a great thing to research. The LIGO gravity wave detector, you mean? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, well, it's like anything, isn't it? It's a project where you have an idea that you can sell to get millions or billions in funding, and back it with certain scientific theories, and then you can it's all run by computers and models and things like that, which you can just surely someone somewhere can push a button and trigger a test run and pass that off as gravitational waves arriving. But I find the whole thing ridiculous, because if you're talking about detecting gravity, well then let's detect it right here on the Earth with some kind of simple instrument, rather than looking, gravity is supposed to be happening right here on Earth, not billions and billions of miles away. So just try to find a way of measuring gravity on the Earth without using a solid mass. Can anyone do that? You can measure electricity, you can measure air pressure, and you can do all these other things. You can make these measurements, but no one seems to be able to have a way of measuring gravity unless they just take a pair of scales and say, oh, that's gravity, that is. Yeah. So, okay, I'm just looking at the chat there. Okay. Who's this saying? I've never seen this guy debate before. Is he good? Antecedent? Well, I'm not necessarily calling this a debate, although I do welcome, flat Earth researchers, debaters, and debunkers. I don't really kind of consider these formal styles of debate necessarily conducive. Okay, I'm still not getting any emails. So what's that, sleeping all right? Yeah, it cost American taxpayers 1.1 billion, and it's meant to prove Einstein's theory of general relativity, but also debunks Newton in the process. It's claimed to be the greatest achievement. Well, of course, they will always, the PR is always out there. The gene therapy that's going on at the moment is supposed to be, the greatest scientific advancement in recent history. But yeah, it's all just, I can write a press release and tell you how great it is if you want. Easy enough done. And when you've got you've got that kind of funding, you send it to the newspapers and they'll print it. And that's the thing, with things like news. Personally, a lot of the news stories I see these days, especially when it comes to the so-called science that is being imposed upon us, you've got things like experts say, and these kind of references to certain people. Well, if a story like that came across my desk as a newspaper editor, I'd say, who are the experts? You've got to name them. And if you're not allowed to name them, you've got to say why. You've got to give this, to a reporter. You don't just say experts say. You have to back, and you have to give your sources. If you can't give your sources for whatever reason, then you explain to the reader. You don't just say experts say, or according to a group of scientists. Who are they? We never get that. So as far as reporting and things, the mainstream media is just trash, because and if people accept this kind of reporting that isn't investigative reporting, it's just repeating, that is a big part of the problem, isn't it? That's what creates consensus. And of course, that's the thing with models. We've seen consensus be created out of models, out of gene sequences that were modeled on a computer. They didn't actually exist in the real world. And so we talk about Wuhan releasing a thing, and it was just, they've just released a string of code that it's all just made up. It's all just made up. So, but of course, that is put across in the media is in a certain way. The readers make certain assumptions, and away you go. Consensus has been formed. So, for anyone that's being observant at this time, you should be easily able to see just how easy it is to create consensus and belief, and have a huge number of people going along with an idea that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but just becomes accepted because it's repeated often enough in big enough letters. Yeah, it's quite mad. Okay, so yeah. What's that, Sleeping Warrior? Why would you not teach this Lego stuff to the kids if it's that good? Wouldn't you expect as part of gaining the funding to advance humanity? Yeah, don't teach it to the kids. Yeah, I've no idea what kind of things are going on there. Yeah, the planet is a belief, isn't it? Yes, Sukot. So, all right. So we can't have any discussion or debate unless people actually kind of join it. So I'm still not getting any emails from anyone. Yeah. So just feel free to call in if you want to. Yeah. Or just email me and I'll send you the link. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, as far as Thailand's going, just in case any of you are curious, Thailand is trying to open up. You can come here whether you're jabbed or not, but if you're not, then you just have to spend, I think, 14, 16 days in quarantine. Otherwise, if you are, then you can come. I know someone has come recently. They're in Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand at the moment. They might be coming to Phuket soon, so that's good. I joined, but I think we are on the same page with almost. Okay, so yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, it's good to bounce ideas back and forth. But to be honest, I'm really happy to try and explain things or go through certain things with anyone that's new to this or anyone that's really got questions. As I said, you're welcome to challenge it. Okay, challenge it. Come, whatever, and I'll tell you where you're going wrong. Yeah. Boomy is trying to open up. Law, government diktats can open it up, or not if they want to. Yeah, that's it. It's still very, yeah. But again, it's important to think that what you see in the media is often different to the reality of what's going on the ground. I mean, okay, the biggest restriction I have at the moment really is having to put a mask on to go outside. Apart from that, I can go to the shops and things, and it's now become. There are still some places where they want to shoot you in the head with a a temperature thing. Excuse me, just get my water. But actually, just walking into the normal stores now, 7-Elevens and things like that, they used to insist that you put your hand up against the temperature checker, but they're just not doing that anymore. They're just people just walk in and out. The thing's still there, but sometimes they don't even work. So, excuse me, I just drink some water. So, yeah, in some senses there is kind of some normality coming back. So I think we're going to see more people coming to Phuket, which will be a help because there's been a lot of a lot of people have been starving, out of work, and a lot of places have closed down. Places, if you've ever been to Phuket and you've seen places like Patong, which used to be full of nightlife, that's all gone now. It's all very dead. So, yeah, let's see. Anyone out there who wants to? No, I'm not getting any. Dear. So we've been going for almost 20 minutes now. What's that hungry line? Do boilers and FEers both accept quantum mechanics as the foundation of chemistry? It sounds like a bit of a generalization. What is quantum mechanics? I mean, I don't deny any of these things that exist. Yeah. So I wouldn't know. I don't have a solid answer to that question. Boom me. They've killed nightlife everywhere. Yeah. This is it, isn't it? It is a cultural revolution in many senses, just very similar to what China went through. I can't remember when it was. It was before the 70s, I think. But if you read that of what happened, it was just as what's happening now. You've got this getting rid of the old and bringing in this new belief and new way, and you've got purges going on. You've got people that are seem to think it's okay to go and attack others. You've got you've got people out attacking the so-called anti-vaxxers, it's created this divide, a new divide, basically a two-class system, and of course these so-called revolutions, these cultural revolutions, go through various dips and troughs and changes and things. Okay, check your email. I may have a guest. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Nothing yet. Oh, hang on. Earth. Okay, someone sent me an email with the title Earth. Zenith Atlas. Okay, I will join. Okay, I shall send you a link. Just a second. Just give me a second here. Zenith Atlas. Okay, email being sent to you now. So I'm gonna see how this goes. Give me 1 second. I've got to get something. Hang in there. All right. Okay, I've got to do some kind of multitasking here. Okay, so I've sent an email to Zenith. Oh, Zenith is trolling. Says he's ex-flat Earth. Whatever. Bring it on. I don't care. I don't care. All right. As long as but I will just cut someone off if they become abusive and silly. Yeah. That's okay. We can see what these kind of people have. Okay. So Basnard says someone's thick. Okay. All right. So I've got this Google Hangout open in another window, or it's Google Meet. Let's see if someone tries to join. And I'm afraid I'm not using earphones today, just the speakers. So yeah. Again, you know, flat earther is a label. It's yeah, I mean, if you want to attach a label, I do like the way that it's, you know, as a direct realist, if you like, which is really, you know, I make no assumptions as to what is beyond what we can really test and measure. Of course, there is a spiritual aspect to all of this, and this does pertain to, you know, life, the universe, and everything. You know, these questions are important. If we want to get some kind of idea about who we are and where we are. And so it's very understandable that it's desirable to have an answer for anyone. Yeah? So, all right, Rune, nice to hear that, yeah? Okay. So, yeah, and again, to be honest, I don't really, I'm not into so-called flat earthers giving everyone a hard time and saying, oh, you're brainwashed and da-da-da-da-da. This is, you know, this, because that's not conducive. It's okay to try and point it out in a way. I mean, you have to recognize that, don't you? You have to recognize that we've believed in certain things, or we have certain ideas or opinions about things because of our experiences. So let's see. Okay, I'm still not getting. Okay, so I've sent an email to Zenith Atlas. I haven't had hasn't come in yet. So it remains to be seen whether that will work. Yeah. Zenith Atlas. Well, I can explain Southern Stars because I sent you an email. Why aren't you coming in? Just talk about it. Come and talk about it instead of doing it in the chat. Yeah? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if... Okay, that is... That's not in the spirit levels. Okay, you just... if you're just going to take the piss, then we won't bother. But, yeah, it's up to you. Yeah. It's just, you know... Hi, Steve. Steve HV, what's that? Saying I used to be like you. It's a paid troll tactic. Yeah. Yeah, because there's nothing, you know, again, flat earth is just a label. Yeah, I might call myself a flat earther, but only, you know, that's not the be all and end all of it. It's just one of those realizations you have that, well, reality is telling you what this place is as far as we can tell, but after that, there's nothing that we can know about all of this. And of course, it's you know, once you start seeking the truth, once you realize that the TV is hypnotizing you, you stop watching TV. until at least you can watch it with a certain amount of detachment. Or once you see that certain people get led to believe in certain political persuasions, but once you realise it's just a puppet show, then it doesn't bother you, you know. So you don't go back to believing the bullshit, do you? You don't go back to once you see it, and that's for anything. That's for whether it's someone that's lied to you, or you've been in an abusive relationship. While you're in it, you kind of know intrinsically, but you just can often feel powerless to do something about it. And it's only in hindsight, or as things progress, and you somehow gain a little bit more confidence in what you see in your reality, your version of things, and you understand that the person you're dealing with has their own version, their own assumptions, and you don't have to be in their world, and you don't have to be dragged down by their egotistical hooks or whatever. Yeah. Philip C. I'm a truth-seeking mainstream religion. Truth seeker. Mainstream religion has many untruths. What is your understanding on religion? Thanks. You're asking me, Philip? Oops, got mine. Yeah. Religion is something. It's habitual, isn't it? So it's a way of life. It's a belief. I mean, of course, like anything, all religions are populated by people that will try to have control. They enjoy positions of power. Why do we have them in the first place? Why do we have religions or beliefs? I mean, they can be divisive, but essentially there isn't really a problem with a whole bunch of different religions living in peace and harmony. We don't have to be fighting about it. So of course, I live in a place where just if I go one direction, it's a Muslim community. If I go the other direction, there's Burmese and this and that. I mean, they have their little pockets, but we all just get along and we all trade with each other, and there's no interference with each other's religion. Life goes on and we interact, and so there are no demands. So I mean, when people can live together like that, then it doesn't matter. Religion doesn't really come into it. Live and let live, right? But it's of course when people start harming others or this and that. I mean, it's whatever culture you are brought up in, it's going to affect the way you think, right? It doesn't matter whether you're from an a-religious community. In fact, I remember meeting some Christians once, and they were trying to sell me a CD, Christmas songs CD. I bought it in the end, but it was a good chance to talk to the person. So I was talking to this girl who had been brought up. She was born into this Christian community in Thailand. I think it was her father was a Christian missionary. The mother had obviously converted to Christianity, I suppose. But she had no idea about Buddhism, about the country that she's in, and I found that weird, because you might be nice and everything, and you might have your religion, and she was fairly young girl. I swear. Someone's trying to come in here. Just a minute. Okay. Zenith Atlas, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah. So I'm
Thanks
just
for
saying.
having me on.
That's all right. I'm not sure who you are or what your background is.
Sure.
Let me just check with that people can hear you on the live stream, okay? Guys, can you let me know if this is Let me just see. Okay. Just trying. Can you say something? Just say a few words. Just introduce yourself, mate.
Sure. My name is Joshua James Bolliero. I have a YouTube channel called Zenith Atlas.
Okay.
See if they heard that.
All right. Did any of you, can anyone just let me know? It's a bit soft. Okay, is there any way you can turn your volume up at all?
Yeah, I got my earbuds in. I guess. Is that any better?
I think so. We'll kind of, we'll kind of make do with it. Yeah. Okay.
I can hold the mic up like this.
That's much better. That's much better. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are cheap earbuds. I didn't spend a lot of money. All right, so cool. So, all right, so I'll get rid of that message. I'll spend like 2 minutes just giving you a quick rundown.
Yeah.
2015 came across Flat Earth, got involved heavily with the community. I in New Hampshire, where I'm from, born and raised in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I moved down to Georgia, spent a year there, came up to I've been living in Detroit now for the past couple of years. So I did a lot of filming, water as a flat earther. I did a lot of the on the sidewalk, like with the frickin', you know what I mean? Did a lot of the activism, like went down to Harvard Square, went to MIT. I've met a lot of flat earthers. I spent a lot of time in that community, and there was just a lot of the scientific problems I couldn't resolve with with living on a flat plane, whether it be a circle, a rectangle, a square. And so I came across a model that kind of really pieced everything together and kind of showed me another example of a false dichotomy. And so I was a very passionate flat earther. I was a flat earther for 2.5 years. And for a long time, I saw everything else that wasn't flat earth as just deception. So I understand where everyone's coming from, whatnot with the Phantom Troll or just, whatever. I totally get that. I do, believe me, because I was there with you. I got involved heavily with NASALies.org, printed up a whole bunch of shirts, all that stuff. But ever since coming to Detroit, I found a lake. I found a lake here that is just incredible because it's perfect for what we people who make observations do, and because it's big enough and small enough. Now I say big enough because if you're gonna use water and zoom across to the P900, you need a big body of water. So most lakes are too small. But if you're using an ocean, you've got no opposite shoreline. Plus, you've got all those big waves. It's just hard to do. But I found a lake where it's big enough, it's small enough. I can get real low down to the water, which does change the reflective index a bit. But the point is that I can rule out perspective over a flat plane with my observation. I'm able to skim the water with zoom and actually show that water is actually curving upward. Water is diamagnetic. Salt water more so than fresh water, but the water is actually curving upwards, and that's why we can see so far. And if we actually live on the inside surface of a stationary, quote unquote, hollow Earth is a completely different theory. That's where people live on the inside of a convex ball, but that convex ball is hollow, and there's other life on the inside. I'm saying we're already the life on the inside of a stationary sphere. And so this is, that bridges the gap between the math issues and the star problems. And not only that, but in this model of the Earth, the firmament, the real firmament, is very close, in accordance with Operation Fishbowl, where the U.S. and Russians bombed the firmament set up their atomic bombs, and they actually exploded, explosive against the ceiling, against the surface. There is a firmament up there, and I'm here to tell you the firmament is actually a lot closer than most flat earthers believe. And yes, it's glass and ice, and mega cryometeors are falling from the firmament, which is why they're spraying all the chemicals. They're trying to keep that ice from the firmament cold. Anyway, long story. I could go on and on and on and on and on about the celestial mechanics, but the point is that we actually, us concave earthers, most of us are ex-flat earth, by the way. Most of us, we went through the gauntlet. We went there, we did that. We're not fools. We didn't go back to the spinning ball and fake, stupid, heliocentric nonsense. We didn't go back to that. We moved forward because flat earth has lots of logistical problems, and we understand that. And we're very gracious, compassionate, understanding, forgiving people because we've been there. We've had the egg on our face. Believe me, I told everybody I knew the earth was flat, and I turned out to be wrong. And it doesn't mean I went back to a lie. It means I escaped the false dichotomy. And so I encourage folks to do the same because things are heating up in this world. And, you know, we found the location of the source of creation, the nucleus of the cell. You know, we live on the inside surface. Heaven is right there in the middle. The fallen angels, all that shit, the aliens, the Anunnaki, whatever you're, you know, wherever you are in your journey, I'm cool, I get it. There's all that life. You know, aliens, all that shit. You know, that's all up there. They're watching us, and you know, we're going to be treated as pets as long as we save each other. You know? So that's where I wanted to, you know, that's my brief little introduction. So
Okay.
I'll let you have the floor.
Oh, cool, man. No, I appreciate that. That's quite concise in some respects. I mean, yeah, well. Yeah, as I was saying earlier on, the whole idea of kind of attaching labels. It sounds like you, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but had you taken on board some particular flat Earth model and you were promoting that?
Well, I mean, not necessarily, because I hadn't found a map that could actually function. And so the way I understand the Earth, I would have adhered more to the circular flat Earth model, but that model has huge map problems. But the rectangular square flat models have like Pac-Man teleportation problems, and so this is why, you know, I was duped by the whole flight route thing too. Like, I understand the how it can be presented that some flight routes don't work on the outside of a globe, but it's because certain flat Earth promoters misrepresent spherical Earth flight routes. You know, inside of the globe, outside of the globe, they're almost identical. Not quite, but almost. But they don't use the Great Circle Arch, and this is Wolfie's point. No, this is Wolfie's point, and so this is why I understand a lot of the convex Earth is because as long as we're talking about map issues, yeah, the spherical maps of the Earth are quite accurate. You know, they really are. These, like, from Chile all the way to Australia on a flat circle map, it doesn't work. And not only that, but there's Antarctic bases where they have to fly from one Antarctic base to the other. And if it were actually a big Antarctic ring, you know, pizza crust, you know, Antarctica, those flight routes, they just don't work. And when you actually wrap the map on the inside of the sphere, this is why. It's because the difference between convex and concave is longitudinal divergence versus longitudinal convergence. When you draw lines on the outside of the sphere, as a grid format, you know, you know, vertical and horizontal. And if you're at either pole, north or south, and you move to the equator, those blocks, each block is going to become bigger and bigger as you move towards the equator. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because you're drawing lines on a sphere, right? But when you draw those same lines on the inside surface of the sphere, as you move south from the north, or if you move north from the south, as you move closer to the equator, in either direction, doesn't matter, those blocks, those squares will become smaller and smaller as you move towards the equator. And so the difference between the outside of the sphere and the inside of the sphere is part of the reason why some of these globular flight routes are inaccurate a little bit. But when you try to take any spherical map and put it and unwrap it in a flat form, there's going to be huge distortion that can't be reconciled with the aviation industry. And there's actually one, Jeppesen Aviation, they've shown in the past, and Wolfie's shown this, LSD has shown it, I've shown it, you know what I mean? But not everybody, but a lot of people have seen and shown that Jeppesen Aviation actually shows flight routes on the inside of the sphere, in the southern hemisphere, no less. And so, you know, I mean, Republican versus Democrat, they're just gonna keep arguing forever and ever and ever until they both realize it's a false dichotomy, right? Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, there's in that sense when you're talking about the political arena, yeah,
Republican
but
versus Democrat. Well,
yeah,
for the past like 3 years, I've seen the same, like, I'm not trying to sound arrogant because it's hard to show confidence and humility at the same time, so bear with me. But I see the same thing going on with heliocentricity and flat Earth. I've seen that, like I've had my
sure.
blinders off for years now, and so I just, as a former flat earther, it's hard trying to bring some people out of that gap. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's hard because I see flat Earth as a two-edged sword. I see it both as a stepping stone and as a stopgap. For closed-minded people, flat Earth is going to be a stopgap. They're just, all that stupid. They're just going to stay on their spinning ball and watching the TV or whatever. But for the open-minded people, it should be a stepping stone. It should not be a final truth to rest on. Flat Earth should be a stepping stone to lead you on to further truth. And that's what I've come to realize. And I'm just trying to humbly share that reality.
well, I definitely agree with you there that it is a stepping stone. But what often happens, and you're also right in that respect, is that we're given an alternative model. Now, the map that you're referring to is obviously the kind of North Pole azimuth with the lines diverging out to basically what appears to be an ice ring. Is that what you were referring to as the proverbial flat Earth model?
Yeah, the proverbial, the mainstream accepted. Now, I've gone through, and I've done live streams with Ronnie and Jason, about their rectangular. I've gone through. There's like 11, 17. I've seen the Norb's world. I've seen the cosmic egg. I've seen pretty much. I used to have like the Gleason on my wall. I used to have the Ferguson, the roulette wheel one with the four angels on the four corners. Like, I've gone through all these maps, all these models, and I just know that we're on the inside of some type of spherical. It might not be a perfect sphere. It might be like toroidal shape, actually. As magnetism would dictate. So we might be living on the. It might not be inside of a perfect sphere. It might actually cave in at the top like this, kind of like how an apple. How an apple does, so it might be kind of toroidal, donut shaped, sort of like pumpkin shaped, sort of.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm firmly confident with all the filming I've done. Now, mind you, we've been told that people used to believe the Earth was flat for thousands of years, but that's not actually true. Cass Kring did a great job putting together a Pinterest piece. It's on Pinterest. You can find it. It's called Concave Earth Map Galore. And almost all of our ancients, there's like 700, there's so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of maps showing us. Now, we never saw them as concave Earth maps. We just saw them as spherical Earth maps. But if you can visually see the difference between like longitudinal divergence and convergence, you'll realize all those globe maps from the past, they weren't globe maps. They were concave Earth maps, showing us living on the inside of the sphere, and you can clearly see that as the block gets smaller towards the equator. It's in our faces, plain sight our whole lives. And so all of our ancient maps, all the Portuguese and Spanish, they all chat us on the inside of the sphere, man. Vasco da Gama, Magellan, all those guys. No, inside of the sphere. They never thought we lived on the outside.
Well, the point.
Why is that?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but the point I was kind of trying to lead to with.
That's how the enemy. They always invert everything. They always turn everything inside out. We know this about everything, from Disneyland to everything. They always invert the truth. It's the simplest way to deceive people. So they put us on the outside of a ball in an outer space. In an outer space where, no, just think about it. Like, hear me out. We're looking, people like flat earthers. I have respect for flat earthers because you're breaking away from the main. You're trying to find the deeper things in life. And that's, we're all on the same journey. Ultimately, forget the shape. It's not about the shape. Believe me, I can argue the shape better than Dubé can because he doesn't even have his own piano. I do. He doesn't have shit on me. But a shape aside, we're all trying to find, who are we? Why are we here? Who put us here? when did they put us here? You know, these are the important questions. The shape is just a byproduct of this creation. So the shape only matters because it helps us find the creative source. But it's finding the creative source is the goal, not arguing and winning over who is right about the shape. The shape is only dictated by the creation. The creator or creators or creative force is what dictated the shape. And we're after the source. We're not after the shape. We're not trying to find the rind or the peel or whatever. We're looking for the heart. We're looking for the gut, right? We want to find what put us here. And so that's what's most important. And so that's what they're trying to hide, because if we live on the inside of the sphere and have the peach pit, if you will, the nucleus, right? Right at the brain of the whole organ, right? At the middle, if they put us on the outside of the sphere in a vast outer space, where does that put the creator or creators or creative force? It puts it nowhere. It puts it at some vast, it puts it outside of a infinite universe, which makes no fucking sense. And it also puts the creative force outside of an infinite universe that's expanding. So how do you have an infinite universe that's expanding? That makes no fucking sense too. Excuse my French. Yeah. But we all agree the heliocentric Big Bang is just silly nonsense. But on the inside of the sphere, you've got a Big Bang that might actually make sense, because it could have, you've got water. Water was already existed before Genesis 1. And then you've got God spoke. So you've got water and sound and created light. Now you've got sonoluminescence. On the inside of a spherical flask of fluid. I'll let that sink in.
A spherical, say that again,
before
please.
Genesis, you've got water, then God spoke, you've got sound, which created light. You've got sonoluminescence inside of a spherical flask of fluid.
Oh, a spherical flask of fluid, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
we all know that phrase, don't we?
No, of course, I get where you're coming from, and a lot of what you say, I would agree with. It is a search for truth. To some point, there's a limit to what truth we could or can know, and maybe we're even supposed to know. Maybe the whole point is to get to that realization and surrender to it, that there's a limit to the knowledge I can gain from looking externally and making assumptions about what I see, or even maps. Now, I do want to just go back to your map thing, because okay, well, first of all, you're talking about being a flat earther and an ex-flat earther, and okay, I understand what you're saying in that sense, because you've gone beyond what has been offered up in the mainstream. But personally, I've never really, for want of a better word, promoted a particular map or model. I've looked at them all, and the thing is, what I want to point out when you're talking about these polar coordinates, everything based on polar coordinates, and the diverging diverging lines out towards the equator and converging at the poles. The way I see that is, obviously, that is just a particular coordinate system, which is essentially, you look at the history, we know that being able to tell the time, or at least deciding on a start and a stop point for time, was essential to be able to determine your position. But of course, it's all essentially based on celestial navigation or observations. But let me just try and be clear about the whole kind of point. When you look at a so-called flat Earth map, where you've got everything diverging beyond the equator, the thing is, those, if you look at a map, like, you say, oh well, down Australia's all stretched out, and that takes up a lot more distance than. But the thing is, it's not, because that's just a projection. That's just a projection from an azimuth point, and it's the same azimuth as is used for the globe, the North Pole. So, I can't necessarily do the maths, but I understand how you can go from a grid coordinate system, X, Y, with your axis, your plus and minus. So you've got your kind of cross of axis. That cross becomes your pole, and you can then have a sign formula to change those Cartesian coordinates into spherical coordinates. And of course, they are based on observations. They are based on, now, physically, as far as let's say, for the sake of argument right now, it's level, whether you believe there's concavity around us or whatever. Regardless, it's the spherical geometry of celestial observations to create a coordinate system that is then projected as a globe is basically just you're working from a horizon, and those points in the sky are then related to a point on the Earth. And of course, because perspective is used, observations are made. Perspective is basically the geometry of perspective can then be used to describe these coordinates. So the thing is, when you're talking about this kind of flat Earth map, and that's just from an azimuth point. So the thing is, an azimuth point really on any map, if you are navigating, your azimuth is exactly where you are at that time. And so, okay, you make an observation to the sun. It's 25 degrees above the horizon, and from your logbook where the sun is at its zenith along your line. And so then you can just with perspective, the further away you are from it, then the closer it's going to be to the horizon. So, that's how I see that. If you can navigate. When you talk about people navigating and using the Great Circle route, what have you, they are using a coordinate system that has been agreed upon. They've put a pole here, and they've created an equidistant pole somewhere else. The north and the south, and you could argue again forever, like where a compass is really pointing, north or south or whatever. But I've put this into videos on my own channel where you can put your azimuth at the South Pole if you like, and then all of a sudden your distances between I can't remember, were you talking about Puerto Rico? I can't remember the flight route, but you're obviously talking about a long flight route. The thing is, if you put the azimuth in the South Pole or somewhere around there, wherever you are, wherever your flight is to and from, then there is nothing changes. And this is another point I've always tried to emphasize, that the distances as far as we travel on an everyday basis work. I don't dispute that. And just looking at a different map that has a projection that goes beyond the equator doesn't change the distances. So if that was what you were defending as a flat earther, and if that's what you were holding up, and then realizing that there were holes in that because it didn't fit, well, it's because it's based on a global coordinate system. When really you've got to understand that those lines don't exist in reality. You see what I mean? They're just on projections. So in reality, the distances between one place and another don't change. And you can project that in any way you want, be it,
right. So I do understand that A.E. Gleason, that the azimuthal equidistant map is just a projection. I understand that it's just a projection. So you can take any flight and plot that same course on any map. So I understand if you can unwrap a map and plot a flight, then you can wrap it back up and plot a. Yeah, you can plot a flight on inside of a sphere, outside of a sphere, on a flat circle, on a flat square. So yes, you can project anything and you can plot a course on any map. We agree on that. But the problem still resides. There's still several problems. Number one, perspective is understood by concave Earth. Okay, we all understand the point of convergence, horizon, where everything above you that moves overhead, even though it's maintaining level, is going to look like it's going down to the horizon, and everything below you that just simply moves away from you is going to look like it's moving up towards your horizon. And so, believe me, concave Earthers understand perspective. We understand it very well, but perspective alone won't prove the shape of the floor.
No. But
you could be on a perfectly flat surface and on a slightly concave surface, and perspective is still going to do the same thing. So understanding perspective is not any sort of proof of flatness or anything like that. So it is because of that understanding that I'm able to prove that I'm actually zooming it.
Okay, well, I'll ask you the same. I'll ask you the same question I would put to. Go. All right. Did you want to finish a point?
We'll get on to the Southern Star Trails after.
Okay. Well, look, when you talk, because you're
It's
talking.
a completely different topic, so I'll let you talk on this topic. And then
Okay.
we'll switch topics.
You're talking about perspective, and okay, thanks, man. There is obviously some mutual understanding there that again, we've been the geometry of perspective that we are told is a globe has been turned into. Let me just get to my point. I will ask you the same question where it regards concavity. So we're looking at a horizon. A globe earther will say, oh, I can see evidence of curvature. It drops down 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers in front of me. So I'll then say, all right, then, if you're claiming there's a drop that you can't see in front of you, let's see the drop or the curve or the bend or the bulge on the horizontal. Now, we know that, as you said, with perspective, the further you look across a surface, the more and more and more of that surface you're going to see in a shorter and shorter space in your vision. So when you look across a horizon, you can probably see across several hundred miles if it's an open space. So where is the concavity that you might claim is just in front of you?
Well, because you're on the, because number one, well, first of all, a human, is kind of small inside of an 8,000 mile ball, but that's irrelevant because on any side, on the outside of any side sphere, you're right. You should, at some point, if the sphere is small enough, this side sphere, you're saying we should see hundreds of miles laterally, and we should see some curve like this on the outside of the sphere. But you got to remember, on the inside of the sphere, there's more land off in the darkness. So it should appear perfectly flat. On the inside surface of the sphere, you're still going to have a perfectly flat horizontal horizon.
So, okay, where is your evidence of?
So that's a big difference between concave and convex. Is you shouldn't expect to see a concave horizontal horizon like this because we don't live in a straw. We live on the inside of the sphere, and on the inside of the sphere, if you have a horizon, it's still going to look here.
So you're using the same argument that it's locally flat.
That's the hoodwink. So, that's one of the hoodwinks right there.
Well, okay, but that's
one of the things I
never
thought of either.
Where are you getting the? Okay, but where are you getting the concave? So where is this observation of concavity if you can't see it? It's the same as saying there's a curve. Number
one, first simple fluid dynamics. Anytime you have contained liquid and you add air pressure, air pressure is always going to create fluids to be concave. It'll never create convexity. The air pressure in a spirit level, you're never going to see the air. You're never going to see the liquid do this. But air pressure it's not going to make water flat either. It's going to create a bubble. The simple spirit level alone, right here, see that air bubble? We live inside that air bubble. So not only that, but my footage alone destroys any P900 footage that any flat earther has, and it's not because of my skill or talent alone. I'll admit I got lucky because I'm telling you, this Lake St. Clair up here in Michigan, it's overshadowed by the five Great Lakes. But I'm telling you, Lake St. Clair is the greatest lake I've ever seen in my life.
Just straight up, where are you?
And its location, its filming locations, you can get right down to the water. The water's nice and calm. There's cargo ships on it because it borders Canada. So we've got cargo ships in front of an opposite shoreline, and you've got all kinds of people bass fishing on little fishing boats and stuff. So I've got multiple reference objects on the surface of this water, and I'm able to skim zoom all the way across, and I'm telling you, those guys fishing, fishing for bass and pickerel and stuff. Those guys are in the dip in the middle of the water, man. Because I'm zooming across it, and you can clearly see the water dip like this, man. And you're not going to be able to, you'll hardly be able to tell that if you keep your camera on a tripod. But I've got several tripods. I don't even use those things anymore unless I'm making celestial observations. But for if you really want to know the shape of water, you gotta get in the water with
Well, you can, I mean, you can
That's
create.
just a little tongue-in-cheek joke, but you got to get in the water, and
Yeah.
so hey, I got a lot of respect for a lot of the atmospheric magnification work and Rob Skiba actually getting in the water. So I have a lot of respect for people who actually went out there and did stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those people that I went out into the side
Well,
water.
the thing is, are you saying?
I went out to the water. I filmed this, like I'm one of the doers. You know what I mean? And there's so many couch potatoes.
So are you seeing?
I don't have time for that.
Are you seeing ships go uphill?
I'm sorry.
Are you seeing ships go uphill?
You remember back in the day, your parents told you when I was a boy, we used to walk uphill to school. We used to walk uphill to school and back both ways. Uphill both ways. So it's kind of funny,
But are you
yeah,
seeing?
I mean, that's why we can see so damn far. Because we're on the inside of the sphere. It doesn't just because we can see far doesn't mean it's flat.
Well, again, are you seeing ships go up a slope?
Well, most of the traffic will I'm looking east to west, and most of the traffic will run north to south. So a lot of times I'm seeing the closer boats are lower than the further boat, and the further a boat away is, the higher it is. Now, mind you, I'm 5-inch altitude off the surface of the water, which means I must be looking upward to see over the closest boat. Because the closest fishing boat it's just a small little bass boat, but it's still 2, 3, 4 feet above the surface of the water. The men are standing on it fishing. Now, I'm seeing over that boat from 5 inches, which means I must be looking upwards relative to the surface of the water, which is what we should be using to determine.
There's all sorts of,
anything. So I'm skimming across this water, and I've got to angle my camera upwards to see over the closest boat. Then, beyond that, I see another boat, say one of those 17-footer, family boats, not a fishing boat, not a regular boat, out in the middle of the lake, and it's higher. And then behind that, I've got a cargo ship, which probably has all kinds of freaking children on it that are being trafficked and raped and all kinds of other shit, right? In those cargo ships. All over the world. There's probably tons of little children being trafficked. But we'll skip that for now, right? So we got a cargo ship, and that's higher than the closest. And then I've got an opposite shoreline behind that, which is higher than everything. Now, mind you, in 2019, before the COVID shutdown, I couldn't see the opposite shoreline every day. It was only on days where I had clear visibility. Particulates in the air. During the COVID shutdown, in Detroit, that changes the air a lot. Detroit's a huge manufacturing hub, right? It's the wheel. This is the wheel work here, okay? So listen, that changed the air when everything shut down. So in 2020, when I went to Lake St. Clair, I could see the opposite shoreline every day. This debunks what this debunks what mainstream science tells us, is that when there's more particulate, they say we can see so far, we can see over the convex curve because there's more particulates in the air.
Yeah.
I have these heliocenters by the fucking balls. These convex doesn't matter, any convex Earth. I have them by the fucking balls. Are you listening to me? Because during the COVID shutdown, there was less particulates in the air, and I could see further.
Sure, but that's, you can...
Further. This destroys anything.
Right.
Wolfie's going to tell you, Red's rhetoric, fight the flat Earth, all these guys. This debunks mainstream science that we can see further through.
Oh, yeah. That's...
Particulate in the air. You know what I mean? What you're seeing here is a mirage. Horseshit. That's horseshit, and we know it.
Yeah,
I think, So what I'm saying is, yes, I am seeing, if they were going from west, because I'm on the west side of the lake. So if the ships were traveling from west to east, then yes, I'd be seeing them ramp up like this. But most of the time they're just traveling sideways like this. But I can still use 3 or 4. When I line up my cargo ship, I've got a regular boat coming this way, a group of guys fishing this way.
Okay.
Now I've got one shot lined up with the shoreline. I've got a cargo. I've got 3 or 4 boats lined up all at various distances, and you can clearly see yeah, the water's surfing up.
Well, you know what
Really see it.
what you're saying is
And look, now this is fresh water. There's no waves. There's
uh,
no tide. All those arguments go out the window. And fresh water is less diamagnetic, which means salt water is curving upwards even more.
so sorry, you're saying
Salt water is curving upwards even more.
okay.
It's
Well,
just
so
so hard to it's just so hard to capture it on film because of the waves and all this stuff. You know, waves really. I'd love to get 1-2 inches over the water, but I can't. 5 inches is as low as you can go because you'll end up zooming. Even the wave crest will ruin the focus. You're trying to zoom across 7 miles, so any little teeny tiny little wave crest will ruin your whole focus. And so to skim across any body of water, you've got to get the center of your barrel just above any wave crest. And you need at least 4-5 inch altitude to do that. So 4 or 5, that's as low as you can go, unless you've got a perfectly still body of water that's miles and miles long, which is damn near impossible.
Yeah.
You would have to simulate that environment. You'd have to create a lake indoors with no wind that's miles and miles long, and then place reference objects that, oh my goodness, hey, I bet you CERN could do that. They happen to have a 17-mile ring. They could make a pool out of that bitch and just, you know. But hey, you see where I'm going with this, right?
well, I get what you're saying, but I mean, you know, there's obviously, you're talking about visibility, and that's always, of course, it's a factor. My very first experiments were just looking down a road that had bumps on it. I was putting the camera on the level, and of course, you know, you see the closer you get to the surface, even if that surface isn't moving. So in the equivalent to a lake or whatever, but it's stationary. But of course, there's a lot going on above the surface, and the convergence is seen a lot sooner. But yeah, the tiniest rise or dip or bump or, you know, anything that makes that road or surface rugged will distort whatever's seen above it. So you will see what appear to be these big troughs where people's legs get cut off, but they're still on that same level. It's just it's a tiny, and you know, it's a tiny bump in the surface.
So, it has to do with bending light and everything. Yeah, I did that experiment actually with Jibby in New Hampshire. We went to Atkinson State Park, where they have a big dam there. And we put the camera right down on like a DVD case. And we put it down, and like you just walk, and you can tell even on a flat surface, the bottoms of feet will become obscured. So I understand completely the whole illusion by how they tricked us, thinking it was a convex orb and everything. You know, I mean,
so again, you know,
way more complicated than like flat earthers. It's going to get way more complicated once you get ready. But the science between light bending and like light curving and all that, the magnetism and, you know, and
I mean, sure, that's
of light, like all these things are going to come into play in glass and simulated environments, and like learning what comets actually are, which is like, this is all the same science. You know, comets are just, the reason why comets tails curve is because light bends, you know what I mean? And so when you actually understand the real firmament and what comets actually are, and how it's really just stigmatism, and you know what I mean?
Okay, so all right,
just terms like these to explain how light bends through glass mediums and through air, and like it's going to get more complicated than flat Earth. I'm telling you.
Sure. Okay, let me quickly make a couple of points. Well, you know, obviously the optical phenomenon you're talking about is something that you can argue about, and you have to. There are so many, as you say, there are so many factors involved that it's very difficult to. You can't really use an observation as a measurement. But we do, you know, my argument has always been that yes, we can tell the difference between parallel lines, face-on, converging or parallel lines that appear to converge. You know, if you turn to 45 degrees to a pair of parallel lines, that's the optimum angle where you will see this convergence, and then, you know, it changes as you go around. But that's always kind of fascinating to me as well. You know, there is definitely a way to describe observations without interference of all the other stuff in terms of very accurate geometry. So again, that's always how I see perspective is the imaginary curve, There's, but anyway, so I'm kind of I'm digressing. What I wanted to say was, yeah, I would argue that what you're seeing over the surface, depending on conditions, is what we would just see over a rugged surface, very difficult to discern exactly what's going on, and you will see what appear to be dips and troughs between yourself and the other side, or something else that is maybe just slightly higher than those dips and troughs. So you will see them beyond, and it's funny, so you will see that effect that you're talking about, where the objects or the people that are between you and the far side appear to be down some kind of dip. And again, I would say that is kind of, you're getting into the realms of all the. So that's why I ask. Ultimately, do you see, or can you physically measure a ship? And I'm still not clear whether you think that beyond the horizon, you think everything is actually going up to where, up to what point? Is there land that's curving up beyond our heads, and have you been able to see ships physically going down and uphill? Just as we ask for the globe believers, can you demonstrate a ship going up a curve, or water not flowing? Now I kind of get, before I assume too much about where you're coming from, tell me, have you been able to physically measure a ship doing what it wouldn't normally do, and that is to go uphill, up an incline? And then where are you assuming that the rest of the land beyond you that you can't see, are you assuming that it goes up around some sphere, and how far?
Okay, so you're talking about physical hands-on measurements, which I agree
physics,
are the best rather than optical observations. But point number one I'd like to make, you're talking about troughs and things like this. Okay, so if optical observations are insufficient, then there's no proof of flatness or curve. So where's the evidence of flatness? So I'll make that point, number one. Number two, you're saying, as far as physical
hang on.
That's off physical, like you're asking me if I've measured a ship going on. Now, that would require me to actually physically take a tape measure or institute a bunch of, I'd have to create a physical structure in which to measure along the shape of the water, and then I'd have to physically measure the ship out there, and then see. You see what I'm saying? Like that's.
Yeah, I do. So
there's a name for that. It's called the rectilineator experiment.
That's just
check it out. And so that's exactly what that is. Actually, Brian Mullen, you know why he left the flat Earth community. Brian Mullen was talking about the force the line experiment, and one of the last things he said before he exited the scene was, look into concave Earth, because, we might be living on the inside of the sphere. So when I'm kind of picking up where he left off, and he not in reality, but the point is like there's been lots of flat earthers that have left the flat Earth community because they realize you live on the. So yes.
Well, to say
the Earth is relatively the same size, 8,000 miles. Now we've got a firmament that's only 62 miles up in the sky, 100 kilometers, which means that you have an 8,000 mile, 7,980, whatever the heck it is. We'll say 8,000 mile wide Earth ball. You've got 62 miles of airspace on this side, 62 miles of airspace on this side. That means almost all the universe is inside of this sphere.
Right.
All the planets, the stars, sun, moon, all that is right here in the Earth. The universe, the kingdom of God is within you collectively. Right?
Yeah,
it's all
it could be anything.
And so everything's. Yeah. That's why planes nose up. You could make an argument for aerodynamics and everything like this, but the point is, the faster an airplane travels, the more it has to nose up. It never has to nose down. It's never,
are you using that as a
first of all, the whole term level is it tricked me too, but level can exist on sphere. If you,
no. Now, this is it. You've got to be clear. I know. I get it.
Sphere, you're still going to be level.
Yeah.
You can have level on a
let's
flat
not go off
surface.
on. Let's not go off on.
Airplanes can still maintain level and curve upward.
They don't. No. So now this is it. You're getting into kind of making assumptions. You're talking about models. You're talking about
I'm talking about perpendicularity to the center of a sphere is level.
where?
If you have a sphere.
Yeah, if you
like
assume
this
if you
is a real
assume a sphere.
So whether or not Earth is a convex sphere is irrelevant. This is a convex sphere. So let's just stay in touch with reality. This is a convex.
No, you're
sphere.
holding up a
Now,
ball.
if I
That's not
have-
in touch
if
with
I have
reality.
If I have
Wait a
something
minute,
like
wait a
this-
minute, wait a minute. Let me stop you. Just a minute, just a minute.
This only takes 2 seconds.
No.
If I'm like this is
I know
not-
where you're
this is
going with
not
it.
level.
Yeah?
This is level because it's still perpendicular to the center.
Yeah.
So
Look.
if I go around
Yeah.
like this now, this
Yeah.
is level.
You are
because
talking
it's still
about
perpendicular to the
You're
center.
talking about a concept. You're talking about an assumption of, starting with an assumption. Now,
No.
to discuss. No,
because
yeah,
the
yeah. Wait,
tennis
wait,
ball-
wait, wait,
that's
wait.
what I'm saying. The tennis ball is not an assumption.
Level-
That was a real tennis
level
ball
in the true
and a
sense
real
of the
letter.
word.
I'm just showing you that.
Yeah,
I'm,
I
no,
know,
I'm not
yeah, I
making
get
the
that,
point
I
of
get
whether
that.
what Earth is or isn't. I'm just explaining how level works on the inside or outside of it of a real sphere. This is how level is.
Yeah.
I'm just making this simple
Understood.
observation.
Understood.
That level is possible inside or outside of the sphere.
Yeah, you've
Level
defined-
doesn't mean-
you've defined
level
level
does
as
not
being
mean
perpendicular.
flat.
To that's
I'm
yeah.
just saying level doesn't necessarily equal flat. They're not interchangeable. Level doesn't
Yeah,
mean
level
flat.
in the real
Necessarily.
world.
Level does mean flat if level is relative to a flat surface. If you are
No, level-
relative to a flat
level
surface,
is-
then yes, you are traveling flat.
Level-
But if you're staying level relative to a spherical surface, you're not traveling flat. You're curving with a spherical.
Sure,
surface
that's just
to
an
remain
excuse. That's
level.
just a presupposition for a model. It's
This has nothing to do with Earth. I'm just explaining what the term, what level actually means. And
And
level
you're wait a minute. So
doesn't
you're
actually
saying
mean-
you're
regardless
saying
of-
wait
regardless
just
of the Earth.
just stop. Okay, so you're
But
saying
this is just an important thing. This is just an important
Yeah,
thing for
it is an
everybody to
important thing.
understand.
So-
whether you're a convex earther, flat earther, concave, doesn't matter what kind of earther you are. Understanding what level means in relation to the surface, because level in relation to the flat surface means something different than level in relation
no.
to a spherical.
Let's yeah.
And so
Okay.
it just depends. So I'm just making that simple point.
Yeah.
That way, when we use these terms, we all have the same understanding on the term that we're
Sure.
using.
Establishing first principles is very
So the
important
shape
when
of
you're.
water, the shape of dirt has nothing to do with it. This is neither water or dirt, but I can still use it to explain the term level.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
want
sure.
us all to be on the same page. Arguments aside, I just want us all to understand that level.
So, yeah,
doesn't
but
exist
you
on,
said you're-
relative to any shape. I could still be level relative to this coffee cup.
Yeah.
What level means in relation to this coffee cup is going to be something different than what level means in relation to, this table. So it's a level is a relative term depending on what you're maintaining level to, in relation to.
Now you
level
s-
to this wall is vertical.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
level
you-
to
okay,
this
you don't
table
have to
is
repeat. I
horizontal.
get it, I
So
understand,
the
yeah.
term level is going to be different based on whatever surface you're comparing it to.
Right. Now,
See what I'm
no,
saying?
the
So
thing
I
is,
just wanna, that's
okay, but again, you're talking about presuppositions and models and assuming a sphere, and the point is that yes, you can change the definition of level, and in reality, level from one point of another, regardless of the surface, is a horizontal level line, and wherever you are on the earth, level doesn't change. Now you can argue the point about level
I
being
actually have the definition
perpendicular.
of level at my YouTube channel. Go to my community section. I just posted
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
the other
okay.
day.
You're talking about
it's
definition.
a long definition, but I actually posted it to my YouTube channel. So go,
Understood.
Go check it out. I know what level means.
The definition, yeah.
I'm doing this for your audience. I'm not doing this for me.
Yeah, what you're showing,
I'm
me
trying to
and the
reach
audience,
people out there.
what you're doing is showing me and the audience that you're subscribing to a particular definition of level to suit a model that you now want to say is
No,
an
there's
actual
actually
fact.
there's several definitions for level.
Yeah,
There's
but you
many
just said,
different things that,
you said when you were
it's not-
talking,
it's not
you
just-
said,
You can't just subscribe to one of those.
Right, but you said in actuality, level is perpendicular to the center of a sphere. Now that's not true. In actual fact,
that's just one way of describing it.
Right.
I don't think anybody used it. I don't think that's the way it's described. But I'm talking in layman terms. That's what it means.
Understood. But then
on a sphere.
Yeah. Right, but that's the thing, that's
because the definition of level, they don't use different surfaces in the definition. But I'm just saying,
right,
because they're not going to list all the different shapes. And
so you're using.
I'm just saying on a sphere. That's
understood.
The language we use to translate that understanding.
Yeah.
That you would have to remain perpendicular to the center of that.
Absolutely, yeah, understood. That's the argument that there's always comes up.
That's one example, because a sphere is just one example of a many shapes.
Right. So
that's all.
Where is your measurement on the real Earth of that to confirm your presupposition that we're on the inside of a sphere? Where is without redefining level? Relation to this or that.
I'll stop you right there. I don't have any tangible measurement, but then again, neither do you.
No, no.
So that's what I'm saying. Measurements are very, very hard to accomplish. With wild water, it's a very difficult thing to do for those of us who actually try to go out and do it.
You're using the same arguments for concave Earth as I get from a
globe Earth.
Earth.
A fishing line experiment, that's actually a good one too. Listen, I'm not here to argue about the shape.
I know.
I'm just here to present information. So I'm not here to argue. I think all experiments are good. Hey, if it turns out to be convex or flat, hey, whatever. Cool, I was wrong. I admitted I was wrong before. I can do it again. But I'm just trying to present new ideas, new lines of thought, new information, which we should all encourage, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I appreciate that, but again, for me, it's like this is it. We've got to be really clear. And it's good, to be clear about definitions and understanding that, okay, I'm using this definition. And when I refer to level, I'm talking about level being perpendicular to a sphere. And so I'm referring to a model. Yeah, I'm not referring to reality, because in reality, there is no way of knowing, okay, your level is horizontal. It's perpendicular to your down on the Earth. That is it. It doesn't change. I've tried measuring it. And if it was concave or spherical, I would know from the experiments I've done traveling 10,000 kilometers, there is no change. So there is, you're talking about concavity in the same way that someone might argue for the globe, because I've got to assume a model, I've got to assume the definition of level, I've got to assume this and that, which are,
But you just said there was no change, so you're assuming it's flat.
What do you mean, no change in?
I'm just saying maintaining altitude over a surface doesn't prove the shape of the surface. That's what I'm saying. Because
in a model, understood. But physically, when
there's still a downward force that's going to make the airplane crash if its own propulsion doesn't keep it up.
It has nothing to do with the shape.
That's
of
another
the
whole.
Earth,
That's another whole thing. Flat don't understand. Is gravity. That's a whole separate other follow.
Sure, but the thing is, if you can.
But we're not going to get there. It does directly relate to level because of force, etheric forces, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Okay,
so maintaining level over a surface doesn't prove the shape.
Yeah, well, I'm not. That's it. I'm not talking about the surface.
I agree. You've got to take measures.
When you go in and
the people who have done that, who have made all the maps, tell us we live on the inside of a sphere. So maybe we should listen to the people who did all the maps.
Well, that's it. It can be projected and assumed to be anything. Either way, a concave, it kind of
right.
Still...
You could project it on a flat surface and assume the Earth is flat, like I did.
Well, the thing is, what I'm saying is there a there's.
But I was wrong because it's just a projection of a spherical.
Yeah.
And so
but
when you unwrap
you're
it,
just all you're doing is taking the globe projection and turning it inside out. Whereas
you can do that interchangeably. You could project the Earth on a Rubik's cube on a cube if you wanted.
So
no matter what you do, there's going to be distortion.
So there's again.
That's why the aviation industry uses the inside of the sphere, because there's distortion.
Well, I don't know that the aviation. I mean, what in terms of what uses the inside?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Jeppesen Aviation, Jeppesen, Jeppesen. That's all E's.
Yeah. You made the point. You made the point You made the point.
So anyway, hey, no, it's getting late. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to turn this into an argument. You know, I'm really thankful you had me on.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I have a lot of respect for people who, excuse me, for people who care enough to talk about this. You know, regardless of where you are in your journey, or what you believe, or what you know, versus what I believe and what I know. You know, the most important thing is that, you know, we all care about shining a light so that people can see it, right? And so, you know, for that reason, I thank you for having me on.
Okay.
I hope I was able to help out, and I think we both learned from this. But I'm gonna go.
Okay.
So unless people have any questions, but I just I don't want to take up too much of the time. Maybe let somebody else in. But if people have questions, if you have questions, I'm not going to be like Joe Biden and run from the questions.
Okay, I got it.
But I don't want to keep arguing, going back and forth. But if there's questions,
Okay.
I'd love to field some questions before I go, if there are any serious inquiries,
Yeah. No, I think we're cool there. I mean, it's good. I mean, if you got to go, that's cool. I appreciate you putting it forwards. It'll be
all my go to my about section. All my information is there. So if people want, people will make all kinds of fun. My phone number's there. My freaking, you know what I mean. All my info is there. You can check me out on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. But I don't care about I have a small channel. I don't give a fuck about. I don't monetize. I don't care about none of that shit. I'm just trying to.
okay.
You know what I mean? So,
All right.
so
Well, yeah. All right, man.
I got nothing to promote, nothing to sell. It's just free information. You know what I mean? Literally just free information.
Okay. All right. Well, appreciate you coming on. It's always good to hear a different point of view. It would have been nice to get some more clarity, but we'll see. If this generates some interest, we'll see if we can discuss this further. So I'll let you carry on, man, and I've got to get back to I'll have a look at the chat and see what's going on. I'm kind of switching between the two here.
All right, man. Yeah, we'll reach out anytime. I hope to hear from you again, and I'll see you next time.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much, man.
All right. Awesome.
Cheers,
Thank
man.
you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Okay. All right then. Okay. Wow. I'm very sorry if it's very difficult to follow the chat, and because I've got these open on different tabs, so the chat is just going brrrr at the moment. Something we can catch up on later on. Obviously, fair shout. I did invite people to come, and that's cool. I wasn't expecting a concaver. I was expecting globers. Okay, interesting. There are definitely more questions that would, I would want answered. I think you could see that. For sure, I'm not, I'm not convinced, and I see the same optical phenomenon going on. But it's interesting to. Ultimately, whatever's above us. I mean, the idea that it's locally, there's local luminaries. Cool, all cool with that. Who knows? I mean, who knows what we're actually in? I mean, we seem to be inside something, right? There's pressure. You need some kind of so-called firmament. One of the questions I would have asked would be for something like, for example, comets. The comets that come around every few hundred or few thousand years, even. Where does that fit into a so-called concave Earth model, where I presume you're talking about limited space? We didn't talk about dimensions, but then these comets they obviously come around. And they are doing circuits of some vast space. In my mind, we could just still carry on assuming that the Earth is level, as a level plane that stretches infinitely beyond what we know, and these comets are kind of markers that go around and around. So, again, these are the kinds of things that we can only wonder about. Yeah. So, all right. The chat has slowed down a bit there. So, okay. I think again, it does come down to things like water. Again, you're dealing with a concave idea. you're talking about, okay, pressure, and then, well, yeah, you can make water do things by spinning it and centrifugal forces. These things are in some sense demonstrable, and certainly more demonstrable than the globe, which is obviously, the idea of a globe is completely the opposite physics, completely opposite to what we actually can demonstrate. You can stick water in a bucket and spin it around your head, but of course that's what's supposed to be happening with the globe, but it's not in a container. So you get all sorts of problems there, and all these wild ideas. So gravity, and that's, of course, I wonder if the globers that argue about gravity know why they're arguing about it. Well, I suppose they know that they need something to have us do what is otherwise physically impossible and cannot ever be demonstrated in the realm of physics, is to have us on the outside of a rotating sphere or not. It doesn't matter if it's rotating or not. So anyway, sheepherder, hi, good to see you in here. Yeah, that's why you feel dizzy all the time. Yeah. So, in fact, someone the other day made a point about what were they talking about? Gyrotheodolites. And just demanding that I admit that they exist. And it wasn't, again, this wasn't a, I didn't contest the existence of any of these instruments, but with a gyrotheodolite, all you're doing again is, I suppose it's very similar to the gyroscopes or the that are used. Then, everything, it's all set up on the level. Level is level. Okay, so there's no change in level anywhere on the Earth. It's all the same. And again, that I wanted to reiterate my point with the level flight. It doesn't matter what the ground is doing beneath you. It doesn't matter whether it's curved or you go over a big valley or a mountain or a bulge or a dip. I'm not talking about that. The thing is, that's what it didn't seem to understand about measuring a difference between the level departure point, which is, that's what pilots do. They spin up the gyros, they spin everything up, and if you're using a gyrotheodolite, then it's going to be the same. You don't spin it up until you are at a particular location, and that is your level. It's always going to be, first of all, you establish your level and your plumb. Yeah, you're perpendicular to plumb. Whatever you assume plumb to be, down as far as you want it to go, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's just, you're creating a right angle. That's it. That's all you're doing when you're talking about level. And so level is from this point here to this horizontal point here. That's level. Whatever the ground is doing or the surface is doing beneath you makes no difference whatsoever. Okay, so again, I wanted to, the argument about planes keeping their nose up, and this is an argument for concavity. To me, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, I tried to say that when we were engaging, if you're still listening, Zenith Atlas, but planes, yes, they gain altitude, they have to fly with their nose up to maintain level flight. They carry on in a horizontal line with their noses up. It's not because they're following some kind of ramp or curve. That's just flight dynamics, yeah? But in reality, aircraft go from their departure point to their destination point, and it's on the same level. There is no measurable difference between that start point and that end point. They are at the same level and, essentially, for the most part, at the same altitude, unless you're landing on some kind of plateau somewhere. It's basically based on sea level. So, and I was, to be honest, I was a bit peeved off that we couldn't just understand that, yes, level can be defined in various different ways depending on your model, but in reality, in the real world, level is horizontal, doesn't change. Yeah, and so you end up talking, people end up arguing about, well, I've defined level as this, perpendicular to a sphere, and so I can go around my model sphere, I can go around my tennis ball, and I can say I'm flying level. Yeah, well, an astronaut can go 60 kilometers up in the air, 60 miles up in the air, and say he's been to space. That's what these what is it, Branson and what have you are doing. They're claiming to go to space, and they're not lying, because space has been defined as a Kármán line what is it, 100 kilometers or 100 miles or 60 miles up, that's it. And you know, legally, and if they're doing it from the US has the lowest ceiling for their definition of space. I think it's the 60 miles rather than the 100 miles. So if you take off from America, you can get to space a lot quicker than if you take off from Europe or something. Yeah. So again, what is it? A space shuttle pilot can say, "Yeah, I've been to space and I've orbited the Earth." Well, yeah, you could have been shot around a whirlpool of a vortex above the Earth, and you could have got high enough that there's little resistance, so you just boom, off you go. Yeah. So okay, my point was about gyroscopes. Again, they're all just working on the level, and so gyroscopes, when you spin these gyroscopes up, these the gyros they work on the similar principles in aircraft and everything. So they have a tendency to face north when they're spun up. Yeah, which is interesting. It's intriguing. There is obviously some energetic exchange going on. So there is some, or true north as they call it, which of course they're assuming is where the center of the, it's off from the North Pole because that's where the so-called tilt is. Yeah. But none of these ever account for any, people talk about changing latitude, and I would agree that there may well be physical differences in what happens or the direction depending on longitude and latitude. But the same with any of these definitions, that doesn't mean that you go down a curve or even round a concave. It's still just going along a level. So, in terms of physics, real physics, our earthbound physics, without making any assumptions, as far as I'm concerned, level is horizontal, nothing else in reality. And it's well understood that you can talk about level as being perpendicular to the center of a plumb down towards the center of an earth or whatever. Yeah, you can define it. So it's an important thing to understand for sure. But again, I did highlight at the beginning of this that models and reality. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Oxborough spirit, concave logic, water flows up. This is the thing, isn't it? You're basically getting into the same realms of changing physics or assuming physical properties that are really just as kind of only slightly more demonstrable than the globe, as long as you've got some kind of spin. But then if you're spinning, things spread out, but you get, there's all sorts of issues associated with that. So, yeah. World without curve, Salar de Uni, the Bolivian salt flats, impossible on concave, convex Earth, water destroys. Yeah, I'd still go back to water. That's why I asked. You seeing ships go uphill. No, we're not able to measure that. So Scotty doesn't know. I ask the same question over and over, and you guys were too lazy to learn how it works. I'm not sure, Scotty, if you are who you are talking to. Sorry, the chat is great. It's vast. Yeah. Okay. I'll just check if we've got anyone else wanting to come in. At the moment, no. So, yeah, we've been going for an hour and a half already. Any quick questions in the chat? I'll just go up and... Thriving in Great Reset. I think I kind of get what you're saying there. Dave Hinkle, hi. Oxbow Spirit. Josh Corey of the... Okay, hi. Yeah. PELE, planet Earth lovers everywhere. Flat level, the idiots is malleable. Okay. Nathan, it's good. It's good to see so many of you here. Hi, David Banner. Individual Perspective, hi. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry if that gave you a headache. Yeah. Levoy Foster. Ah, okay. Right. Sheep herder. Okay, let's just see. Let's go down to the bottom. Matthew Eastman, where are torsion bars found in nature? Okay. All right, Jesus Scott, was there a meniscus effect in the concave model? Yeah, I mean, immediately, well, I first thought, okay, that's, yeah, I was, okay, is that where you're going? Meniscus effect? So, oh, yeah. Uh, yeah, I went down the hollow earth rabbit hole for a while, early on. I remember saying to my brother, hey, the earth could be hollow. But, no. All right, no, it's been okay. It's been good. I've never, like I said, never really done this before, so I'm glad at least I got the logistics worked out with the OBS and the Hangout and all this. So yeah, that's nice. And if this is kind of conducive to I don't know, proper discussion, then maybe we can do some more. Nathan Oakley, hey Nico, Major and Ad. Oh, thank you very much indeed. All right. Okay. Thank you, Zoo Scott. Yeah. I feel it's a lot easier to just there's so much that you can say, but often you don't need to say too much. So I hope it's been in somewhat constructive. And as always, you can. This whole thing is about observing our thought patterns, our behaviors, our identity. And again, this is something I wanted to kind of pull. I'm sorry, I can't remember your thing. The guy Zetic is kept kind of referring to flat earther, and the community. And we're all. I mean, in some sense, there was some middle ground there, right? Because we're talking about discovering or realizing that we've been duped to a certain extent. We believe things, we've been brought up in a certain culture and we think a certain way, we have certain habits, but then again my thing has always been to not fall into another belief and not adhere to a model, and I again with the azimuth model, the often used flat earth map projection from the North Pole with the ice ring, it works in many ways because it uses the same time zone type mechanism based on these celestial coordinates as the globe. So, there's what it does there is it does tie in, and we can say, well, that's, I see this at 2:00 and that doesn't change, and I can look at it like that. But again, with that guy's, misunderstanding of the fact that we're talking about a projection. Australia isn't like that, and Antarctica could well be its own continent. It doesn't have to be an ice ring. I don't know. I can't prove any of that. And so this North Pole azimuth is kind of cool to work off, but and it works. And this is it. Again, when people talk about working models. It's funny really, because models are all based, any model is based on what we see in reality, or we can record the stars and the luminaries and we can even predict eclipses without any assumptions about the shape of the earth at all. We just look at it and we see, okay, the sun and the moon are going to cross in this location at this time. It's easy enough to work out, regardless of what you assume is moving and what you assume the shape or form or dimensions of anything are, or the distance. It doesn't matter. You can make all that up once you have the ability to make a prediction. So it's funny when people talk about working models, because, well, the globe model doesn't work, because there is no, for the globe model, water shouldn't flow. Water shouldn't flow down curves on the globe. Well, in reality, it does. Water flows. And if you want to change your definition of level and from high to low altitude, or you want to play around with words, it makes no difference. You're arguing for a model. Same goes for concave. There isn't this, the physics of water on the Earth, which we can observe and test and demonstrate, doesn't fit with any of this idea about curves in any direction. Yeah? So it's, and the physics of flying. It's level. The physics of anything that's done on the Earth, yeah? So, what's that, Glenn Salch? Cavendish experiment used telescopes to allow beams of light to be used to electromagnetically charge metal balls to cause an attraction. use telescope. Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on that you know, like attracts like, and all sorts of things can be done. Yeah, okay. Execrate 200. Yes, step away from the model. Basically, yeah, absolutely. You know, and in some senses, I do agree with that guy where we shouldn't be trying to define it all as a model, and you can make up any model you like. But the point here is to be, you know, it is an inner journey. It is, because we're trying to get these answers to these fundamental questions. But also, there's part of that journey is the acceptance or the surrender to the fact that you know, everyone operates in a different way. We've all got different ways of seeing things, and ultimately we are always being divided. Division is the tactic. Divide and rule. Always create these two-class systems or two-party systems. There's division everywhere. And the thing is, it's no different to being in a jungle. Yeah, like this is what people so easily forget, is that we lead a life in a city or something, and things are provided to us. But you know, it's no different to an animal out there that around any corner there could be a predator, and those predators exist in our world, and we are foolish to think that they don't. It doesn't mean we should go around being scared of going places or getting mugged, but it happens all the time, and people lie. And they will lie, and they'll lie to themselves, and that's what is so important to understand. Sorry, someone's messaging me. Phuket word, time traveling being Tib, TTB. Please do this again when you have time. You bring sense and sincerity to discussions. Much appreciated by many over many years. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, time travel being. That's nice to know. I've never really done this, so thank you. Okay, yeah. All right. Excellent. Okay, I think it's a good time to leave it there. I think hopefully this has helped, and I really appreciate you coming along. Thank you for helping make this possible and active and interactive. And yeah, I'll try and set up another one. And a big shout out to the Phuket Word Patreons. Thanks so much for just, you know, the support you're giving. We're making progress behind the scenes as well, with certain just discussions and things, you know. But it's good. It's constructive, and it gives me, you know, a bit more time to focus on this, although I've been quite distracted. Anyway, enough about me. Thank you very much for coming along, and we'll catch up soon. Okay? Y'all take care now. Cheers.